goes it. Welcome back. I'm going to be working on a card for Easter for Cat's Scrappiness Swap, and I thought I would show you the products I'm going to work with. So the first thing I've got is the box card die, or the 3D pop-up box. I'm going to be using the main piece here, but not these strip pieces today. I'll, but it comes with both, so if you like the look of like more a cleaner look, the ones that it comes with by default are great. I did pick up the grass add-ons, which is why we have green cardstock. So basically, these replace those pieces and basically do exactly the same thing. There are a couple different add-on sets. I think I have the wave one. There's a stitched border. There's just a stitched box one I don't have. And most of these come all together, so I tend to like to leave them that way because I tend to use them together. So I will not be taking these apart further. But I want to make sure, yeah, this will fit just fine. Although you could if you prefer. I'm going to cut the main piece out of white, I think. And then for the background, I'm probably going to use this stars stencil that I haven't broken into yet, because I think that would be pretty cool for Easter. And then I'm going to probably use the race car bunny, because he's my favorite. And then I'm going to see what in my stash I can grab for some like pre-done floral die cuts to just sort of fill out the background a little bit more, because it's spring and I think I have a few more of the Spellbinders florals that came with the February kit, but there's a lot of things that are sort of flowers on a stem that would be pretty easy to sort of hide behind each of these layers. But I'm going to come back once all those things are done. Oh, and I am going to do a little ink blending on here just to give it a more interesting look, so I can show you how that works. I'm just going to use Catherine Pooler Matcha because I've been liking it a lot. And depending on how vibrantly you want this to look, you can basically use as little or as much ink as you want, but it's somewhat hard to see on camera, but basically it's mostly just building up depth, and if you wanted to, you could certainly use more vibrant ink, which I may wind up doing, because um, this I think is just a little too, well, there's a little bit. It's adding some very subtle texture, for sure. And it depends on you. There we go. That's more what I wanted, more of a swirly. And like I'm not actually going for like a specific thing here so much as um, just sort of a little more texture than you'd get with plain white cardstock. So it doesn't actually matter a ton. Here we go. This is working a little bit better now. Um, just because this is a very pastel ink, so it takes a while to actually build up the color when you're doing sort of a tone on tone. But that's probably fine. Wow, my blending brushes becoming well used, certainly. But I tend to use a really heavy hand with this too. There we go. I think I'm happy with how that looks. So I will be back once we have die cut some stuff and stamped out probably the race car bunny because I like the idea of him in front, basically, and then like doing some more floral things on the two other layers of this card. But I'll show you how that looks once we die cut everything, because it'll be easier to tell how this all goes together. Alrighty, we are back, so we have all of our pieces die cut out. This is the base of the card, and what happens is these side pieces fold over like this. We'll go and do this a little more in depth in a moment with a real bone folder. Then if you look at these tabs, each of them have little pieces at the end that fold over, which are basically just glue tabs, and then you can, of course, do the same thing. Um, but basically, if you stack all three glue tabs, the final layer will be at the front, and then this card, whoops, the card will essentially stand up, so that you'll have the three layers next to each other. And I sort of changed my mind on I'm not sure if I'm going to add extra stuff, but I really like this bunny who is juggling eggs. That seems very appropriate for the season to me. Um, I think I'm going to mostly leave him white and then just do a little coloring on the eggs themselves with colored pencils. So I don't think we're going to need to do a ton with this guy other than stamp him and cut him out. So I'm just going to do that in black. Because I think my sentiment is going to take up most of the front area, like that first piece, so I wanted something that would stick up a little bit more. Here we go. Or use my actual pressure tool, which has been working great. And we got a perfect stamp the first time, so hooray. Just going to grab a couple pencils to just finish him off a little bit. I do like the idea of a white Easter bunny. So, and it's unclear to me. He's wearing a bow tie and has a little, like, fur tuft. Or perhaps it is, not actually a fur tuft, but it might be clothing. But I think really all we want to do is, I definitely want some purples in the eggs because I feel like I'm going to, I think maybe I'll do, how many of these are, whoa. Yeah, do primarily blue and purple eggs because I think they'll stand out really well. And then I think I'll give him a pink bow. And that will be pretty easy to do. Give him a little pink on his nose as well. And I think the blue and purple color palette would really pop nicely against all the green we're going to have. Although, we'll see. I don't know. I can't decide if it feels less Eastery just because we're primarily sticking to a single color palette. But, you know. And a few of these purples look really close together. What we can actually do is grab the more vibrant purple. And go back in on a couple of these to make sure they look like really purple. There we go. So now we kind of have a couple lavender eggs, a couple blue eggs, and a purple egg. Okay, I like how that's looking. Coloring this sort of intentionally flat so that the bunny becomes the star. You could definitely do a brown bunny if you want, but I'm kind of liking him the way he's looking. So I'm going to grab my scissors and sort of mostly fussy cut him. The other option, if you wanted to be a little more precise, is you could have just sort of sketched a line around this and then run it through the scan and cut, and that would have worked just fine too. But we have a happy bunny. We have a couple of pieces of grass. So the only thing we really need to do here is I'm actually going to grab my bone folder and put creases here so I can tell where the edge of this is for when I stencil a little more clearly, because then you can more easily see the crease. And I did a card with this fall that I really liked, but I don't know. I think this particular stencil definitely is a pretty cool one to work on. I might see if I was thinking maybe I want to do more of a yellow or something else against the green. I haven't quite decided. And what I can do here is, since, unless we want to balance this, I guess we could just ink all of it too. I mean, that's sort of an option. Actually, I kind of like that where the stars would continue into the sides. And then down here it doesn't matter because you just have some glue tabs. So I think I'm going to do that. I am just going to grab a little piece of tape to just sort of keep this centered while we're working. I think the purple is going to look really cool next to the green, so hopefully I'm correct about that. I'm just going to go in. I don't know. I guess what I would call relatively lightly, but this is a pretty vibrant purple, so I mean, even a light coat of a vibrant color is still going to look relatively vibrant. So you know, to each their own, I guess. We are probably going to get our hands at least some degree purple doing this. Because I think I just accidentally touched the ink pad. But, I don't know. This is about as purple as I think I need it. I think it should produce a pretty neat outcome. There we go. I'm not really worried about that area at the bottom because basically it's going to be covered by the grass on the back layer. I'm just going to clean this off real quick while I let that dry. And then pretty much we can put this guy together. One thing I do like about these particular box cards, if you do wind up using a white card base, sort of the neat thing is then on the back, basically, let's get the blending brush out of the way. Like on the back, you still have the ability to write a message. So it still gives you that. Um, so we are going to go back here. With the grass, particularly, you kind of want to watch um, the tips of it, just from the standpoint of you would prefer to not mess them up because they are pretty fine, as you can see. But like basically, once we put this in, like you're not going to be able to see um, really the back here. And the green cardstock is about a probably more like a 60-pound cardstock, where the base is more like an 80 pounds. So pretty much, I want to make sure my base is at a 90-degree fold. Because I remember this figuring out how to put this thing together the first time was kind of hard until I went and watched a video on it. So um, basically, what you want to do is get glue on the tab. And basically, all of these, well, fold. If you can see that this is kind of like a U, this is like an upside down U. So basically, what you're going to want to do is place it in. Whoop. Wherever you want. And you can do these one at a time, so it's a little less problematic. But you can either take a bone folder and just hold it. I'm using Lenco glue, which grips pretty quickly. Um, but if you're not using like a fast drying glue, um, it can be a little bit of a pain. And basically, when this folds down for shipping, like it's gonna fold this way or the other way, where one tab is gonna be out and the other is not. So I I tend to fold it both ways just to make sure uh, it's gonna be okay when we fold it to mail it. And here you can see like the tab seemed a little long for my card, so that may have been me or may have been just how the die cuts went down. But then now once you have one of these in, it's a lot easier. So you can see how this is going to work. So we're going to basically stack and stack and stack, and then the last one going to fold forward. There we go. But I really like this particular die set because it's pretty versatile and you can do pretty much any occasion card with it. I think it looks pretty neat when things are put on. So I guess I should take a minute and say I'm planning to put this guy on the second layer probably. Now, if we wanted something to sort of counterbalance him, now would be sort of the time to think about that. So let me just see if I might have a sprig of some sort. And this is not the thing I was thinking of, but let me go and grab that quickly. Now what I was thinking was to offset him, we could just sort of glue a flower box here, which I think I will do. And you could really use any sort of die cut that you happen to have around that sort of fit the spring theme, I think. If you pre-plane your cards a little more than I do, um, you'll basically you can get this all glued on to begin with. I think the one thing that's a little harder is if you do larger die cuts, but anywho. Sorry if you hear background noises. One of my cats just got very scooty. Then we're going to repeat the process. And if you find it easier, basically you can, once you get the first one of these in, the rest of them are basically just going to layer on top. So you can do this however it feels most convenient to you. I tend to just sort of lay them down and then fold them just so that like the fold works in both directions. And here you can kind of see how the grass comes together. And then I want this guy to sort of hang out here, I think. Let's see. Probably want him. What you could do if you had thought of it is if you want him less sort of like this and more dancing on top of the grass, um, you can do that by just basically leaving a tab. And then once these come together at the end, pretty much they just stack, and then you have your three layers of dimension. Oops. Let me just demonstrate the other way that you could do this. So you can glue in, which actually would work really well on this one because we want to both. Well, you could glue your. I mean, I guess basically the easy way to go here is you'd want to glue your rabbit slightly over the like where the grass is going to cover him, I guess, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to put a little glue on the back, and then I want him kind of here. And then that will adhere shortly. And then what we can do is just put our final glue tab in. I only put glue on one side so far. If you do that, you can just sort of press it and then let it go. And you can see how this is coming together. And then the only thing left to do is you can just sort of fold this up or bend it up a little bit, get some glue on the last piece, and then, whoops, in it goes. And again, you can just sort of fold that. As I didn't actually have a Happy Easter sentiment, so I just cut one out on my Cricut. So I'm thinking that would go kind of here, actually. And I guess since we've been using, and you could really do this with a glue, or you can do it with tape as well. This whole box could be put together with tape. I find it a lot easier to do with glue because you have a lot more wiggle room so that you can like do the folding and make sure that everything's pretty much lined up the way you want. So I am going to actually stand this up. Whoops. Stand this up, and then just sort of hold and press, because I can use, basically I'm using my mat to help me square this. There we go. And that is how this looks. And I think if I have some embellishments, I think perhaps some yellow or some teal would work very nicely. I may just do like a single large one, I'm thinking. I think I'll do teal and a single big one. These are the Cat Scrappiness epoxy dots, which I like a lot. I think I'll just do one on the end, kind of next to my sentiment. And I like that just because it brings sort of the blue. I guess I didn't do anything blue. Oh well. I was thinking I did I mean the some of these eggs are a little bit navy, so it kind of pulls that color in. But I like to sort of since this sentiment's a little off center, I like this to have a little something sparkle and shine there. Anyway, and then as mentioned, to ship this, all you really have to do is fold it over, and then it goes in quite nicely. This is a little, there we go. Go like that, and then when your recipient gets it, they just stand it up, and then they see that it says Happy Easter. And the neat thing about these is they're freestanding. Let me just fold it down so you kind of get the whole look. So that's kind of how they all looks together. So I don't know. It looks like a fun Easter card, and I'd definitely be happy to get it. But this is my card for the Cat Scrappiness swap, and if you're a fan of them, feel free to join their Facebook group because they do swaps a few different times a year. Anyway, thanks much, and check you guys later.